All right, people, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon the time that you are watching this. And I'm behind the camera this time, and I'm joined by probably one of the greatest television personalities that I know, and definitely one of the best judges I've met, Judge Joe Brown. Thank you for joining us, Judge.
Okay, the judge is in the house. Let's go.
I know it. So you have been going absolutely viral recently with your interview with Candace Owens. That's already crossed over 1 million views. And you had a particular interest in Kamala Harris and in her genealogy and in her heritage and in her political stances. The first thing I want to do is ask, what got you interested in this election in particular with such a fervor and a fire that you've been attacking all of these podcasts? And by that, I mean coming on and being so fiery and passionate in everything that you say.
My active major was political science at UCLA, and I've basically been passionate about it every election that has occurred since I've been alive that has to do with the chief executive of this country. There's a lot on the line, and my immediate circumstances find themselves very dependent upon who's in the White House in terms of the opportunity, advantages or disadvantages, debilities or benefits that come out of that. So I pay attention. And another thing, for a number of reasons, I have come to despise and detest fakes.
Well, when you say fakes, there's a lot about Kamala Harris that has been revealed to be fake, including the fact that Candace Owens brought out on her most recent podcast that she may have, in fact, lied about who her biological grandmother was.
Oh, yes, that's interesting, particularly since the person she's taking the picture with died apparently 4 years before she was born. So unless she's got a hookup with Tales from the Crypt, you know, what the devil? How'd you bring Granny back, or is this her reincarnation?
Well, and so I want to focus on that in particular. When you look at family, there was a report most recently, Judge, that her own father, Donald J. Harris, who I believe I've heard you say that you met him out before.
I had a function at the Governor General's, a Governor General's affair. Yes.
Yeah, there was a report saying that he has not even voted for his own daughter in the presidential election.
Well, he did not show up for her inauguration as vice president, for U.S. Senator, nor for Attorney General for the state of California, etc. He's written some articles personally, and you understand he is a professor, so he wasn't quoted, he wrote them. They've cleaned up a few of them, but he basically essentially called her a liar and a fraud. They're trying to say that was because he was unimpressed by her trying to turn things into a matter of race politics, but it is also, in what I recall reading in a Jamaican periodical, it's got a great deal to do with some of the claims that she's made. So essentially, is she really black, or is she faking that? And from her mother's position, she would be Indian and Hindu. And from his position, she would be Hindu, Indian, and Irish. So how does she get to be black out of that? But that's an opportunistic thing, and I have read some books by some Hindu that decided to take advantage of school and financial opportunities by claiming that they were black, and some of them are very dark-skinned and swarthy. Technically, what she is an Indo-Aryan, the same one that Adolf was talking about, but they're not blonde-haired, blue-eyed. They are swarthy, dark-eyed, and dark-haired, and because the Nazis told a lie very long and loud, everybody, Aryan Brotherhood, Aryan Nation, the Nazis themselves, now think that Aryans were blonde-haired, blue-eyed, and not somebody from the Indus River Valley, meaning India, who looked like Kamala. So there it is. So, and even if she were black, right, she has, in my researching, she has the least connection with this country in its history possessed by any candidate for president of the United States of America. Her parents had academic visas, and essentially they were transients. They had no intention of becoming permanent residents or citizens, so she, in effect, is the migrant herself. And there are tales told about her background circumstances, where she went to school, contradictions that are in there, and you get outright lies like she was sitting in the dorm smoking dope and listening to Tupac when Tupac would have been 10 or 11 years old when she was in anybody's dorms. And when he released his first single, she would have been listening to someone 20 years of age. He got his first chart number, and he was 23, and at that time she was prosecuting simple possession in Alameda County, California, as a prosecutor. So, I mean, what's she supposed to be doing? Going back to the local dorms at one of the universities or colleges in the area? And Willie wouldn't have liked that, going in and having to navigate through the teeny boppers to get to his girlfriend's dorm room. Yeah. Or how about cleaning greens in a dormitory bathtub? Now, your grandmama and your mama are going to countenance you cleaning greens where these kids are washing the same behinds that are leaving the skid marks in the panties and the tighty whities? And then again, if you know anything about it, you don't clean greens, you pick them. You take the leaves off of the stems, get rid of the stems, get rid of the bugs, and you also wash them. So she's telling a tale. So who taught her how to do this? Mama? A Hindu? No. Then, well, everybody knows that we are entitled to our 20 acres in a mule. Now, I don't care if you grew up in the United States, you're white, black, brown, red, yellow, you know it's 40 acres in a mule.
That's right.
Yeah, okay, sure. And yesterday is today because it is tomorrow, yesterday, now, and et cetera, et cetera. What kind of crazy nonsense is that? Sounds like we used to call it in the 60s. Hey, man, dude is, or the chick is tripping, man. What's she been smoking?
You know, my favorite quote from Kamala Harris is when her teleprompter went out, and she went 34 days. 34 days. And it's so interesting because now mind you, of course, y'all that follow me, y'all know I'm 29 years old, but I've been following politics since I was a child. What I have seen personally is one of the greatest displays of both incompetence and my father used to tell me that if you're running for office, you need to spend more time talking about what you're going to do versus how bad your opponent is. When you look at Kamala Harris and her policies, if I were to ask you, what are they for the black community? What are they for the white community? What are they for the country? Could you even give me an answer, Judge?
I couldn't. Then we get out into things like inflation, the international trade balance. She's completely out of her league. And as far as it goes to, have you ever led men in anything? Answer, no. Have you ever inspired anybody? Well, she lost 92% of her staff since she's been vice president because they claim she's lazy. She will not do work. She is ignorant of the subjects that they try to brief her on. She doesn't treat them nicely. And she's into word salad. She got delegated that responsibility because Mr. Biden had some pending indictments against him for organized crime pending in the Ukraine, and we have a treaty with the Ukraine relative to that could have created some very embarrassing international incidents. So she got delegated the authority to be the chief diplomatic representative of the United States of America to Europe, and she failed. And she's now known as a word salad Annie, who couldn't put anything together, couldn't state policy, just chopped up a lot of words and threw them up in the air. And supposedly people were to be impressed, which they were not. Then look what we have here in this area in Georgia and surrounding environs. We have $42 billion that was supposed to bring rural America access to the net. It hasn't been spent, and nobody knows where it is. That was her task, and she failed at that. And then, let's say, that southern border. Oh, my, she was border czar. Now she's trying to claim it was a success, but last I checked, and I've been traveling around the country a lot, we are having some real big problems with illegals who have broken American law. And we've got a bigger problem with people supposedly in charge who've been violating the federal statutes against harboring or giving aid and comfort to federal fugitives, which by definition you are if you crash the border. So we have a lot of people that ought to be prosecuted for conspiracy, for setting up, what did they call them, sanctuary areas in cities. Yeah. That's in violation of federal law. But then again, we have another prospect. They all seem to be getting sent to certain what are being termed battleground areas, so la-di-da-di-dee. Why is that? Well, as chief diplomat, the president has authority on his order to do two things. He can declare that they're refugees entitled to special status and set a date when that starts, let's say 2021. And as someone with unlimited pardoning power, he can pardon everyone who would be guilty of conspiring to harbor or give aid and comfort to a federal fugitive, and the fugitives for crashing the border. And if they become immigrants under an oppressed situation, they don't have to attend classes or do anything. They automatically become citizens, and they'll be able to vote when the next midterm elections hit in 2027.
Which would, by extension, make the black vote not worth anything anymore.
Right, something like that, and it would also buttress Democratic Party strength in certain key areas of the country where these people are getting shipped to.
So when you figure. Right. So when you look at it, is it fair to say that this whole amnesty program that Kamala Harris is trying to institute on behalf of immigrants coming into the country illegally, offering them the $50,000 like Gavin Newsom did in California to purchase a house, offering them various tax incentives, various incentives that should belong primarily to American citizens, you would say that this is being done, or would you say this is being done in an effort to eliminate the necessity to campaign directly to black voters?
Yes. And there's another thing, too. It's anticipatory for something even that idiot Biden picked up on, which is pretty soon, and that's just a matter of years, it's not even a full decade, the United States is going to have a fundamental change because there will be no majority race in the country. Everybody will be a minority. And the peculiar way that they are classifying Hispanics in this, they will be the largest minority, but actually it will be a composite minority. If you fill out a federal form, whether it is a loan application or you're purchasing a firearm, it'll say first where, are you Hispanic or non-Hispanic? If you hit Hispanic, you skip the next few blocks, and those blocks say, are you Caucasian or white? Are you black or African American, Pacific Coast, etc., Native? And they want to break you down and to see what you are. But if you are Hispanic, white, black, brown, red, yellow, you are lumped into one group, which becomes a large ethnic group in terms of the count that they have. So it's really something that's a bit strange. Plus, when we dial to get this automated information that is so slow and inept, press 1, F, press 2, F, press 3.
Right.
What's it always for 9? Nueve. Su habla español. So in other words, why are we having a thing in there for Spanish when we also have French speakers, German speakers, people who have other languages in there, German, but we have Espanol. Is somebody trying to set something up? And I'm not downing the people who are of Latin origin, which just simply means you habla Espanol. I had a stepmother who was classified as Hispanic, but she was Asian because she was from the Philippines. So she is a Hispanic Asian. So obviously that's not what people would think of when you put that in that group.
Right.
But it makes a large group. And I think there's an effort to confuse things so it becomes nebulous, but it can be used. And it is going to generate some problems because you can already see it in the Democratic form of campaigning and presentation. They are not trying to bring together people. They are trying to set distinctions between people. they've got their Negroes that I would call black if they were independent thinkers, believing that white supremacy is going to hold them down. And it's not just adversity, it's an implacable enemy that they can't overcome. But yet you have these same Negroes who are being taught to think like they're still slaves on an antebellum slave plantation run by Democrats. You have a situation where they are conditioned not to think like free people, but they are conditioned to get all of their information from so-called mainstream media, or legacy media as it's being termed today. And legacy media is by definition the propaganda engine for white supremacy. So here you are talking about white supremacy holding you down, and all of your information becomes from your erstwhile enemy. It doesn't make any sense because it's not sensible.
That would explain why the media can't stand Trump so much.
That's right. See, Trump is a personality that people can rally behind. We have a dearth of leadership in this country that people can identify with or say, I like this guy. We have some on the local level, but they are essentially suppressed by various and sundry instruments so that they don't rise to the top. We have some pretty sorrowful people that are supposed to be held out as leaders. They have absolutely no charisma. Nobody would follow them across the street to get a free Coca-Cola. So, and half of them act like they've been doing Coke. So here you go. Meanwhile, Miss Vice President, the way she sounds with her word salad, frankly, in my era back in the 60s, somebody was at hey, she sounds like she's tripping, man. What she been smoking, man? Damn.
So let me ask you this. To close us out, this is a question I did want to ask. Being a black man yourself and seeing what you've seen, how does your family react to this? Because I know a lot of people's families have become very divided in this particular election. I would argue not only mine have had conversations, I'm sure yours have. How do you deal with that? How do you handle that if that's been an issue?
It's not a matter of handling it. I'm the patriarch in my family. Damn it, I said this is the family policy. That's the family policy. If they don't like it, that's their problem. I haven't completely finalized my will, so, hey. Word up.
Hey, let me tell you.
Watch your step closely. You may get cut out.
You might get cut out the way. You ain't getting nothing.
You ain't getting nothing. I'll spend it all. You can't take it with you. Yeah, but I can sure as hell spend a lot of it and not have to take it. So you listen to Grandpop, you listen to Uncle, you listen to Cuz here.
Yes, sir.
I'm the senior patriarch. And by the way, I'm so sick and tired of them trying to run this old plantation game of downing black men and putting the mammies on the plantation in charge of what's going on. Now, that's misogynistic. Yeah, I'm a misogynist. Yeah, I'm a chauvinist. Don't have a problem with it, but I've dedicated my life to protecting and providing for womanhood. So that's my job. I'll die for that. Put myself on the line quite a few times for that.
Yes, sir.
I don't have anything to apologize, but no, I'm sorry. The President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Services. The President is our war chief, and Kamala Harris is not somebody to follow anywhere, not even to find a latrine and you have a bad case of diarrhea.
Justice Joe Brown, we're going to have to do this again. Thank you, my brother.
All right.
I appreciate you.